We're going to be using only 30 minutes for this session. Let's zoom straight into today's topic. Amen. So we are saying that financial budgeting and planning. All right. So we want to understand what financial budgeting and planning is. So briefly, to a layman, just let us know what financial budgeting and planning is.
Okay. So financial budgeting and planning is more like, I'm going to liken it to building a house. So you want to build a house. The house is the target. So that is the big picture. So that is financial planning. That is the big goal, what you want to achieve. Maybe it could be a medium-term plan or a long-term plan. So what you want to achieve, which is the building, is the financial planning. Now, when you want to build, which is the end product, you usually will go in for an architectural plan, which is more like the blueprint of how the masonries and all the people involved in the building are going to actually conduct their work to get to the final product. And that is budgeting. So budgeting is the blueprint or the architectural plan that will help you get to the main product, which is the financial plan or the financial goal. I hope it's clear to all of us. So the planning is the big picture, like the future goals that you have, your retirement planning, estate planning, how wealthy you want to be in the future. That is your financial plan. Now, with that plan, you need to start from somewhere. You need to work in bits, day by day, month by month, year by year, to be able to get to the plan. So for you to be able to do that, budgeting helps you to get there. And that is basically the main difference. So planning, longer picture, the budgeting is the short term, the day-to-day activities that you are doing to get to that plan.
All right, thank you. I believe you are understanding and you are taking notes, right? So let's start to know the importance of financial budgeting and planning.
So, frankly speaking, if you are someone who doesn't budget, you are like the chaff in a grain. Like, you know, when you go out there to our mothers that sell maize and stuff, they put this maize on, it's like a basket woven sieve. Then they start jumping the sieve. You realize that when the air blows, the chaff just moves away because the air moves them away from the main seed, which is the maize. So if you don't budget, you are like a chaff because you are being blown away by any wind that comes. You put your expenditure on what I call autopilot. It has no control. So you buy anything that comes to mind. You buy anything that you see. You do anything that comes to mind. But when you budget, it prevents you from doing that. It puts your finances in a more organized structure, which you can follow and which you can actually get things together to achieve the goal you want to achieve.
So you are like chaff before the wind if you don't budget,
Exactly.
right? Very good. So we want to know, some of us can't even track our income. We want to know, how can we track our income?
Okay. So tracking income, tracking expense, it's more, or it all works into budgeting. So I'm going to use a personal stuff as an example. Personally, I have an Excel file, which at the beginning of every year, what I do is that I know my goal, which is the plan for the year, the amount of money or how great I want to build our wealth as a family. If I say as a family, we all know that I'm not one. So, so we know what we want to achieve at the end of the year. So that Excel file has the goal of the family, and it has a month by month breakdown of everything that we want to do in every month. And I usually will check that because my wife has given me that responsibility to take care of our finances. So I usually will check them maybe weekly, monthly, and all that. So if you really want to track something, you need to actually give that particular thing an attention. So on a month-by-month basis, you need to sit down. What are the things I'm involved in? Maybe I only work, which is job. That is my only source of income. So you put it down. My source of income, salary, maybe 5,000 or 2,000. Now, in the month, what are some of the things that you buy? Food, which is groceries, utilities. You list all those expenses and you list the cost elements associated with them. In doing that, you are actually budgeting. And I'm going to recommend 2 applications for all of us, if only we are going to use them. Those of us who use Android, there is an application I use called the Pocket Guard. Pocket Guard. Pocket, and guard as in security guard. Then when you are using iPhone, which is iOS, I use another app there. It's called the Money Manager. But the manager is MGR. It's not a full money. You see, the icon is more like a piggy box. I know if you know piggy box. It's in the form of a pig, a small pig. So that's the icon of the app. Now, this app helps you track your expenses. So before I married, I knew the amount of money I spent on a daily basis. Now, when I married, it means that something has changed in my life. My expenses might double. So that particular app, I use that to track our expenses for the first 3 months. So now, off head, I know exactly, roughly the amount of money we spend on a monthly basis. So based on that, I can now draw my budget for each and every month. If you don't track something, you cannot manage it. Anything you don't track, you can't control. Because if you don't track the amount of money you spend on food, you cannot then say, I want to reduce my expenditure on food. Because you have nothing to work with. Are we okay with that? So we can download these 2 apps. And I use it on a monthly basis. Let's say this month, after everything, I look at it, maybe we'll be spending 1,000 cedis. I put that 1,000 cedis in the app. Anything I buy, I just type it in the app. It reduces the 1,000 to, let's say I buy fuel, 200. It reduces the 1,000 to 800. It means that anytime I want to make an expenditure, I refer to that app, know the amount of money I'm left with, so that I can spend within that amount. Are we good? So if you want to track your expenditures, these are some of the apps we can use. And also you need to keep more or less, you need to document everything you buy so that you'll be able to know the amount of money you spend on a daily or monthly or weekly basis.
All right, thank you very much. I believe we are taking notes. And those of you having good phones, the Android phones, it's a pocket what? Pocket what? And the other phones, you know what to do. Amen. So, sir, we understand or we know how to track our income now, right?
Sure.
And our expenses. So we want to know how we can manage our income and also what are some of the mistakes or the challenges we face when we are managing our income.
With respect to mistakes, there could be a lot, but I'll restrict it to about 5 or 6 of them. The first one is money illusion. In economics, there's something called money illusion, and there's something called compensation variation. Now, I'm going to try to break that down for us to understand. Now, when we talk of money illusion, what basically it means is that when there is an increase in your salaries, you look at the nominal value of the increase rather than the real value of the increase. And that brings us to what we call the compensation variation. So basically, like recently, there was an increase. I saw somewhere the public sectors, they've been increased by about 10%. Now, assuming your salary is 2,000, 10% of 2,000 gives you like 2,200, right? Now, you get 2,200 hits in your account. We are in February, so probably we are getting to payday. So payday of February comes, you get 2,200. Now, immediately you get to 2,200, something sparkles in your heart. And you now, like, I'm a rich man now. So you pass around the corner, you start doing the papayas, you start doing the Osekrum, you start doing the, what else? KFCs and the rest. Now, your salary has increased. That is the nominal value. But the real purchasing power of that salary has not increased, because salary increases come because of compensation variation. So they increase your salary by looking at inflation, how the prices of goods and services are going up. And based on that, your salary is increased. So the fact that you've been given a 10% increase doesn't mean you can go on shopping. What it means is that they are trying to cushion you so that you'll be able to survive concerning the new inflation rate. So if I were you, what I would do is that now that my salaries have increased, I will still monitor my expenditures for the next month or two. You realize that if you were spending 1,000 cedis on food, probably when you go to the market with the same 1,000 cedis, you are not able to buy the things that you are supposed to buy. So it goes up to, let's say, 1,050, meaning that that 200 excess, 50 is being consumed by other matters, right? Then if you're able to track the expenses for some time, you now know that the real 200 cedis, what is left with you is about 100 cedis. Then that 100 cedis, you can decide to use maybe 20 for your chilling and 80 for your investment and other stuffs. Are we good? So that is the first mistake we do. We should never make that mistake henceforth, since we are aware of it now. The second mistake is lack of information, or we not seeking information. How many of us have a bank account here? Let's do a quick survey. How many of us have a bank account? We all have. Okay. Am I permitted to just ask randomly?
Sure.
Thank you. So, how many of us have a bank account? Again. Okay, Mike. Please, what bank do you save with? What? Cow Bank. Now, Mike says he saves with Cow Bank. If I'm to ask Mike, what is the current news about Cow Bank? Mike, do you know? So he doesn't know, and that is a big issue. For personally, I save with GCB. Family-wise, we save with Stanbic. Now, if you ask me the current information, at least I know GCB has changed their MD, right? Now, it's very important because you are taxing them with the management of your money. You are supposed to know what is happening to them. You are supposed to follow their social media handles. Follow them and know what is happening. I believe that most of us, if we were to know what was happening to our banks, we wouldn't have found ourselves as being a victim of this banking sector crisis. Because you know them and you'll be able to either change your bank or do something about it. But we don't know. So from today onwards, the way you follow all the celebrities on social media, let your bank be one of your celebrities. Follow them closely and know what they are doing at any point in time. If there's something that triggers you, you think you are not okay with it, then you start thinking about changing your bank. Are we good? Now, the third one, or you want to chip in? I can continue. The third one is something that, should I say, it's more or less like a misconception we've been given. The third mistake is savings. I know it's going to be controversial, but the third mistake we do is savings. Now, stagnant water only breeds mosquitoes and smell, right? Stagnant water. Say okoto gata munsua. Because say ain't me moving, you see a whole lot of animals in that gutter and it starts smelling, right? But if you get to a river, the river flows easily, right? So there is less smell when it comes to river or comparing a river to a gutter, right? Now, we've all been taught to save, but it is not the right way. You have to save, but there's something we use in accounting. We call cash flow. Cash has to flow. It doesn't have to stay stagnant. It has to flow. So anytime you are accumulating cash, you are only wasting your money, because when you put your money in the bank as savings, you are rather enriching the bank. The bank takes that money, give it to our brother, his Lord, as loan, takes interest from his Lord, probably at 35%, give you only 5% as interest. The bank is cheating you. So what do? I prefer you investing the money rather than saving the money. Are we good? So invest more, save less. Maybe for me, I have a particular threshold that my monies don't exceed. All of them will go into investment. Probably a short-term, 3 months investment. I maybe would keep a 1 month or 2 months cover of our expenses. Everything goes into investment. Now that investment yields you additional income, which can help you grow your wealth. If you save, you are only losing money. Are we good? The next one is misplaced priority. That is my third, right? Misplaced fourth. Okay. So misplaced priorities. Now, priority or how I'm trying to find there, but that's how I mention it. The grammarians, you can help us. So, one thing we have to know, okay, like when we were starting, I wish I had a sheet and a pen. I would have drawn a class 1 building for you. If you ask a class 1 student to draw you a building, you do like this, that, which is the roof, right? Then you do 1, 2, 3, which is the main building. Then you do some small thing, which is the foundation. Then this building, I'm going to put 4 windows on that building. Now, every window signifies something. All of us here, one of the windows are our incomes. So the jobs that we do, it brings in money. Now, when it brings in money, I'm going to categorize individuals into 3 people. And I hope that we all would look forward to being the last people. Now, the first group of people are the poor people. What we do is that you take your salaries, you pay bills. So the money enters from one window, gets out from another window. That is what I call the misplaced priorities. We spend too much that we do not even think of investing and saving. We buy anything we see anything we buy. Are we good? So that is one. Now the second group of people are the middle class people. They receive their incomes, they pay bills, then they buy wealth reducing assets. If I say wealth reducing assets, assets that reduces their money or their wealth. Someone will ask, what are some of these assets? And I know that if I say this, a lot of people will beat me. Now, you get small money, you go and buy a car. A car is a wealth reducing asset. You ask why. If you buy a car on a monthly basis, you buy fuel like 100 liters. That one car is these saloon cars. If you are using the Prados and things, I wonder what you buy. So you buy fuel over 100 liters, let's say 16 cedis. That's about 1,600 every month, right? Now, whilst you are buying those things, you buy phones and all that, it takes money from you because you need to maintain the car and all those things. So average or middle class people, we get money, we pay bills, we buy wealth reducing assets, we come down to ground zero. Our monies are gone. Now, the third group of people, which are the wealthy people, they buy income generating assets. So when he gets money, he would buy a car, all right. But that car he buys, he gives it to an Uber driver. The Uber driver works to the extent that he is now able to buy another car, that the Uber car can now maintain itself and maintain the car he uses. I don't know if you get the cycle. So anytime we get funds, we should try and put them, or we should try and prioritize our expenses and know where we are putting our monies. The next one I will talk about is non-security. It should be the last one. Okay. Non-security is the last one. The other one, we can put it somewhere. So the non-security, we get money, but we do not secure it. Are we good? Now, we all know what happened to our mothers. I'm not trying to remember anybody's pain, but we know what happened to them at Makola. Now, we get money, we invest in assets, we don't insure them. If you don't insure your assets, it gets spoiled. You spend another money to go and what? And replace it. Assuming you buy a car, you don't insure the car. Maybe insurance is, let's say, 500 cedis monthly. If that car gets an accident today, you might spend maybe 50, 60, 70,000 to buy a new car. Probably that insurance of 500 could have helped you replace that whole car. Our mothers that had their things bent, they could have salvaged something if they had insured themselves. So in as much as we are trying to build wealth, we should make sure that we have insurance policies for ourselves so that we can safeguard our incomes and our investments. The last one would have been about thinking generationally, but we can put that one because it's a whole thing on its own.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we want to know the difference between a need and a want, briefly in about 30 seconds. Then you also let us know how much of our income that should go into saving ideally.
Okay, so need and want. I just use this basic principle. Can I be able to survive without it? If it's yes, then it's a want. If it's no, then it's a need. Can I decide not to eat today? No, I have to. So it's a need, right? But I have one shoe, maybe a normal canvas, and I see a Nike or a Jordan. Can I live without that Jordan? The answer is yes. So that Jordan is a want. I don't have to even think about it. Are we good with that? So we can use this basic principle. Anytime you want to buy something, mostly I use this principle with my wife, and she usually have issues with me. I use a principle I call the 24-hour principle. So if I want to buy something, I'm not too sure whether it's a need or a want. I'll say, you wait, let's wait, tomorrow we'll buy it. That tomorrow I come to sit down 24 hours. By the next day, all my youthful exuberance is missing. So now I can think clearly and decide whether I want it or I need it. Are we good with that? So we can practice some of these things. Then he said, how much money should go? This, frankly, to me, it should be an open book stuff. Watch what is within your heart. But I usually will go by the minimum of the tithe principle, which I call it the tithe principle. God says that we should divide our incomes, we should give him 10%, okay? So if we are giving God 10%, let's also think of ourselves that when we are working, we would also pay ourselves 10% of our incomes at the bare minimum. So anytime you work, you get your salary. Because you pay everybody. You pay the Uber driver, you pay the church guy, you pay the gobesela at your work. Because you buy food, you pay them, right? So why don't you also pay yourself? So at a minimum, 10% is okay. But if you can do more than 10%, I'll gladly encourage you to do that.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that saving is actually not a very good way of managing your finances.
Sure.
So we want to know, what are some of the options that we have when it comes to say investments?
Okay. So for investments, there are a whole lot of them, but it depends on your risk appetite. So they say there's some people who are risk lovers, there are some who are risk averse, meaning that when they see risks, they will run. So most accountants are like that. We don't like risks. And some are risk neutral. So for them, not everything goes. So with respect to that, you look at your risk level, then you go in for the investment. But I'm going to mention some of the investments that we can try. There are T-bills, which we call the treasury bill. We have the fixed deposits. There are mutual funds. There are, what do we call it? There is one I currently chanced on. It's called the DigiSave with Petra. There is one other one. Recently on my, I usually would love to read on other stuffs, sometimes outside my scope of work and all that. And recently I chanced on the fact that you can even use life insurance or someone's death as a means of investing. And maybe we could talk about that a different time. It's another model of actually creating generational wealth. And we can talk about that later. So insurance could be one. I think these guys, Star Assurance, they have, I'm not trying to promote any company, so forgive me maybe if I have not mentioned your company. So Star Assurance have one they call the bank assurance. It's more like an insurance, but you keep the money for some time, let's say 4 years. So they give you a minimum 4 years. Without, like, if you've not gotten to that time, you cannot withdraw. And it's more or less like a standing order on your account. So when the money falls in, they deduct and use it for that investment for you. So these are some of the options we can look at. Real estate and all those things could be the high-level investments we can also look at.
All right, thank you very much. So how does debt affect our financial planning? Secondly, we want to know some of the strategies we can use to manage or reduce our debt. And lastly, we also want to know some of the appropriate ways to take, probably, or we want to know when it is appropriate for us to take loan.
Okay. Frankly speaking, I don't like debt. If I owe you and I see you, my BP could be like 400 over 1,005. I hate debt. So my advice mostly is that don't try to be in debt because it robs you of your incomes. Because when you are in too much debt, meaning that you have to service the debt. And as a country, that's one of our problems. All the incomes we generate, it go into debt financing. So debt is not something I will encourage for anyone. But I come to what he's saying. Debt is not entirely evil, okay? The only time I'm going to advise someone to go in for a debt is when that debt you are going in for, or when that loan you are going in for, you are going to use it for something that can pay the debt. So let's say I have a business idea, a business model. I have tried and tested the business model in my own way. I believe that that business model can generate enough income, but I don't have the money to actually scale up that business. Then I will go in for a loan because I know that business model can pay off the loan and the interest. If not, I don't advise that. So if you are going in, maybe you have a piece of land, you want to build for rentals, you don't have the money. At that point, you can go for a loan, build the house, rent it out, the incomes, pay the loan. For some time, you pay off the loan, the building becomes yours. Are we good? So that's the only time I'm going to advise someone to go in for a loan. And in terms of debt management, there are a whole lot of methods that we could talk about. But one sure way I'm going to talk about is debt consolidation. Debt consolidation is more or less like, let me use an example. So Mike is bank A, right? So I have a loan. Let's say by mistake, we found ourselves in a lot of debt. You are owing a lot, okay? Maybe prior to this meeting, you did some mistakes with your finances you owe. So Mike has a bank. We have a loan facility with Mike. Mike is charging us interest rate of 35%, right? Now, who else? Dickness Martha is bank B. we owe Bank B. Dickness Martha, because she's a Dickness, she's giving us a loan at 20%, right? Now, anytime we get income, we are supposed to pay these loans and pay interest 35, interest 20, right? Now, the sure way you can do is to play smart. I go to Martha. I tell Martha, Martha, I need additional loan. Probably I have good credit with Martha. Now, assuming I owe Mike, let's say 50,000, I calculate all the interest and probably I know with loans sometimes if you pay ahead, there are some charges and things. So I calculate all the charges. Then I go to Martha for loan and take that loan, pay off Mike. Now what am I doing? I'm consolidating my debt with Martha. Now if I consolidate my debt with Martha, instead of paying interest of 35, 20, I have reduced the interest of 15% and I've given that to Martha and I'm paying her loan of 20%. I don't know if you get the principle. So you are supposed to pay 35% to Mike, 20% to Martha. Why don't you take a loan from Martha, pay off Mike? Then now the 15% extra you are supposed to pay Mike, you use it to do other stuffs. So that is one. The next two I'll talk about is more or less like motivational. So some people are in too much debt that they don't even know how to pay the debt. There is one way you can motivate yourself, and they usually will call it the snowballing method. So you list all your debts, then you take the smaller one. You start tackling the smaller one. Now, assuming I have a lot of debt, I owe our brother here 100 cedis. If I'm able to pay this 100 cedis off, the loan comes down. I'm like, I can do this. Yes, I can do this, right? Then I move on. I pay our next brother 200 cedis. It gives me another motivation. I can do this. Then you continue. So that's the snowballing method. List all your debts, pay the smaller ones gradually. So you put the debt payments in your budget. And anytime you get extra funds, maybe I see, oh, His Lord, how are you doing? I give you maybe 100, 200. That money don't spend. Use it to service the loan. The last one will be they call it the avalanche method. So that one, you list all your debts. You pay the bigger ones so that you reduce the interest and how the debt is growing. Are we good?
Yes, please. So lastly, we want you to help us get some of the short-term and long-term financial goals that we can set for ourselves.
Financial
goals that we can set for ourselves.
Okay. Short-term, this is personal to all of us. So just sit down, okay? Ask yourself, how much do you want to be worth by the end of the year? That will help you set one definite goal when it comes to money. So the question is, how much do you want to be wealthy at the end of the year? If I'm to call you today and ask you, what is your bank account like? How much do you want your bank accounts to be like? And this goal should be realistic. Don't set goals that when you are there, then you just wake up at dawn and you be like, pressure them so. Don't do that. Okay? Set realistic goals. So that is one way. Maybe I want to be worth 100,000 by the end of the year. That's your goal. So start building on it. The next one, which was going to be the last point we jumped, was we should think generationally. That is one of my personal goals. Maybe you can add it to yours. Because I have experienced or I've had the privilege to be with people and I've heard stories where rich men, they set up companies, they leave a lot of properties for their kids. And excuse me, after 2-3 generations, I don't know if it's the appropriate word I'm to use, but after 2-3 generations, should I use or I shouldn't? After 2-3 generations, they get someone who is not, let me put it this way, that one would be a better word, knowledgeable enough or wise enough to maintain that family wealth. So in my mind, I'm thinking of something that I can leave for the next generation of, let me say, Asares. That when they come, they can also mention that their great-great-grandfather left this thing, and they are able to experience or enjoy that. And in my search, I don't know if I'm allowed, but I got one which is, they call it the Rockefeller method. So that guy, it was there were two guys, Cornelius and Rockefeller. Cornelius was in the transport business. He built a lot of wealth. After 2 generations, the money was gone because their children and their children's children, they felt entitled, they squandered the money and it was gone. Rockefeller had a different approach, and that was what I wanted to talk about. So he built a trust and gave the monies to the trust, and rather gave his descendants opportunity rather than assets. So what he did was that if you are my descendants, you want to go to school, you want to build a business, you can go into that trust and they give the money to you as a loan with a lower interest. So if I want to school outside, now I can have that opportunity from a family bank because the trust can give me all the money. But now if I want to, I might not have the money to do that. Then what they do is using death as a means to generate wealth. So what he did was that every family member, the trust will go in for an insurance policy for you. So like a life insurance. If you take loan, you don't pay, they won't chase you. But when you die, your life insurance will come and replenish the money that you took from the family trust. So that is a generational wealth thing. So we need to think about that. We should not only build houses and all that. You can build houses, your children will sell it, go to the US and go and squander the money. So let's also think about other means where we can provide our children and our children's children like an opportunity to start from somewhere, not where we all started from. Are we good? So that is some of the goals, but I'm going to leave it to us. And we should think about expanding or bringing in multiple streams of income. That should be another goal we can set for ourselves.
All right, Mr. Asare, we want to say a very big thank you to you, even though we have a lot of questions, but our time will not permit us. However, we want you to give us your final words.
My final words will be that let's learn more about finances. Let's all grow rich together, because I believe that Pastor usually says something, that if the youth are doing well, he has no problem. His problem goes away in his old age or even now. Because I'm sure that, like even this morning, when we were having the support for other locals, I'm sure the pastor that preached, we could have saved him a lot of time from even preaching. Like by the time he comes, you say, Pastor, don't worry. We've already contributed. Because if you are a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, all of us are millionaires. We come, Elder would say like our 10th anniversary. Elder says we need what? $1 million, right? Then we would have told Elder, this one no fundraising. I've taken maybe $5 million. Maybe Martha will take like $60 million. Before we realize we've covered everything, right? So let us be conscious of our finances. Let us grow together. Let us be wealthy together. And let us hold each other's hand. If there are anything, you see someone, you have a business idea, there's someone you think you can partner with, let us all grow together and build one great family together. Thank you.
Let us put our hands together for him. Let us put our hands together for him.